The Creative Jungle podcast is all about speaking to and learning from inspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, and well-being experts. In each episode, we discuss their unconventional lives and journeys, what they've learned and how they've got to where they are now, any tips they can share with you so that you too may live a much more creative and happier life.
The podcast is brought to you by us, Dan and Sam. We're a couple who set up MYO and Creative Jungle Company, and we are all about helping people get creative and bringing a little bit more creativity to life and business. We host over 14 different arts and crafts workshops from our central London studio, virtually offsite at events and festivals. We have a range of creative kits, and we also run creative thinking workshops. So having helped thousands of people, we think we know a thing or two about helping people get creative and perhaps being a little bit happier. We hope to see you in the studio at some point soon too.
Be sure to subscribe so you can hear about future episodes. Right, let's get started. Here's the next episode. Today on the podcast, we have the lovely Kay Suppamas, founder of Leafage, which has the lovely mission of improving well-being through nature through their hands-on and creative terrarium workshops, DIY kits, and other curated products, all dedicated to bringing the outside in. Kay puts it wonderfully on their website when she says, Leafage was born from the simplest of desires to connect, inspire, and cultivate a love for the world around us.
Check them out on We Are Leafage. That's Leafage, weareleafage.com, and at We Are Leafage. So Kay is an ideal podcast guest, I should say. That's all about creativity, well-being, and happiness. So welcome, Kay.
Hi guys, thank you so much for having me. So excited to speak to you guys today.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
we've been following your journey since you got started, basically. So it's been so nice to see how far it's come, and it's always lovely looking at your Instagram and website to see how colorful and
so like calming and jungly and leafy. Everybody check out We Are Leafage. It's just so nice on your eyes.
Thanks, guys.
No worries. So usually on the podcast, we start a little bit with the backstory to give a bit of context about the guests and the journey they've been on. So here comes quite a long-winded question. So your journey to date has been underpinned by creativity, from studying visual communication and then doing a master's in book arts and publishing design and applied arts. I think I've messed that up a bit. And then working in graphic design at the Designers Guild for a number of years, and now setting up and running Leafage. With all that in mind, what was the journey pre-Leafage like to you? And what does creativity mean to you?
So I've always been really creative, and I was an exchange student when I was 17. Sorry. And that's when I got to study graphic design, and I knew from that second I wanted to be a graphic designer. So fast forward, I was a graphic designer. I actually studied graphic design for my first degree, and I did a major project on helping beginners do the plant shopping in Thailand.
Interesting.
I forgot about this because this was
a seed was planted
years ago, and I had this frustration when I was shopping with my mom, and I was like, you really have to rely on the sellers. So I created this project as a major project back home, trying to solve this problem, and I completely forgot about it. So I feel like, growing up, I've always been interested in gardening, and then now that I started working as a digital designer at Designers Guild, that's when I learned how to kind of, sell things online and do all the email marketing and everything like that. So all of that combined together, then I launched Leafage. So I feel like it's been quite an unexpected journey, but everything kind of adds up together,
Yeah,
definitely.
That's really nice.
Yeah,
it's a hard job to be in. Well, every job has different difficulties and good points, but like doing graphic design, it's like that, it's a hard job, like trying to articulate a brand
or a message through it. Yeah. And have you found that with Leafage, I mean, I know you're going to go into what creativity means to you, but have you found that with Leafage that you feel like your graphic design skills can be more free or more play? I don't know. How do you find using your graphic design skills in your business?
I think I definitely have a lot more control on how I want things to look.
Yeah.
But obviously, because we've already got the brand guideline and everything, it makes it easier. But when we were planning on the brand guideline or the brand strategy, we want to make sure that everything is kind of timeless and classic and contemporary and fun, you know. So I feel like we can be really creative, but within the scope and kind of follow the brand, you know.
Definitely. I mean, and is that how you view your creativity? Almost like it's best let loose within guidelines or a framework to work with. I know this.
Good question. I wouldn't say so. I feel like creativity is what we need, because these days we have, you know, we can automate things, we have systems, but creativity is something that you can you can do without a limitation. And I think that's the beauty of it, and it's the same with what you guys do at where you are. So I wouldn't say that I would put a box around creativity, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that brought us nicely up to setting up Leafage, which I know stemmed from the sudden death of your father in 2016. And kind of that seemed to have sparked the idea more of like, get out in front of people, do meaningful workshops, let people relax, get a bit happier. Why did you decide on Wellbeing and nature stemmed from that? Because it's so great to put the energy, I guess, of something like that into business and doing good. And what were the early days of Leafage like?
Yeah, so when I lost my dad, that's when I was like, I needed to do something a bit more meaningful. I really love my job. I still do. I still love graphic design, but I wanted to connect with people and kind of also like face my fear of, you know, when you want to do something and you're like, oh, I don't have time, I'm not going to do it. And I felt like when I lost my dad, it kind of gave me that inspiration to just go and do it. But before I went and do it, I did the silence meditation retreat. So I stayed in a temple for 10 days learning to meditate. And I've experienced some incredible things, and I just wanted to, I also like travel around a bit, just in nature, and I felt like it was a good time to kind of combine everything together, you know, the meditation side, the nature side, and the creativity side. But instead of just like being like, ooh, I've just launched a business, I didn't want to call it like that. It was more of like a project, something that was like an experiment, and bringing my friends together in one place, bringing my first mentor together, and like getting people to meet and share what I've learned, share my journey, share my story was really fulfilling. So that was the beginning of Leafage, really.
Yeah, I think you've put it in a nice way in terms of looking at it as an experiment.
Yes.
There's like a fail-safe device with that, which is really good. It's like experiment for everybody. Who knows if it's going to be successful, but I'm going to give it a go. And everybody goes with an open mind. Whereas if you're like, I'm launching this business next week, there's a more serious and kind of, it can be less enjoyable, I guess, when you launch it, because you take it almost.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like when you call it a project, it's kind of fun. It's already fun. It's like back at uni, and you can try things out and you can get your friends involved. But when you call it a business, it's a bit like, oh, if it doesn't make it, you feel a bit like, oh, your ego is a bit bruised, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, my business hasn't made it. So this experiment hasn't worked out. But I think it's such a good life view anyway, calling something one big experiment, because in a way that is what it is.
Absolutely. I'm interested to hear more about two things. One is the meditation thing you mentioned, because that sounds really cool. It's something I'd like to do, like the 10 days go. I haven't done tons of meditation stuff. So what was that like? And I know also early in the journey you did, was it the escape school?
Yes.
With Escape the City?
Yeah, Escape the City, yeah.
Like a little bit about those two, we'd love to hear.
So the meditation, we stayed in the temple, all wearing white and no makeup, sleep on the floor, get up at 4, and then you start praying from like 5. So you kind of, have an hour just to set, and everyone comes together, you start praying, and then you listen to the Buddhist teaching, and then you eat at 11, and that's the only meal you have until the next day. So you kind of fast, in the afternoon, and then you just spend all afternoon learning to sleep, meditate, or walk or sit down. But it's just all afternoon just being with yourself, basically.
And you don't
in silence. I mean, you can speak to other people, but if you want to be silenced, and you have the sign of like, I'm practicing silence meditation, so people would know, and if they see the sign, they weren't trying to talk to you. And then in the evening you have another Buddhist teaching, and I really want people to try to, like, I don't know, maybe give it a go when you have like the struggle in life. I started listening to the Buddhist teaching during my work hour as a graphic designer, just having it in the background. And that's when I came across, people like Tony Robbins and self-improvement, but it all stems from listening to the Buddhist teaching. And I think that was like a really nice transition into the self-improvement world.
From the source, in a way, from like the modern day versions of it, I guess.
It's really nice. Sam, and I know you asked about the Escape the City. I did that when I was working full-time, running Leafage part-time, doing Escape the City. Oh my god, it was so intense, but it was the first experience into the startup world. And my friend who came to my first workshop recommended me Escape the City, and she was like, I think you'd fit really well in this community, give it a try. So I signed up, and I think it was like a 10 weeks course, really intense.
Was Ben Keane doing it? Was he leading it?
Ben Keane wasn't there. It was Johnny Miller. But I've met Ben Keane. I met Ben Keane on the first session before I joined. So that's how I met Ben.
And did you enjoy it? Like, or rather, what kind of 2 key things did you like really take away from it? And how did you find the experience doing something so intensive?
So learning about the MVP, minimum viable product. And I was like, okay, you've never heard of this before. I love that though. Like, I love testing the assumption, and if it doesn't work, then you can kind of tweak it, because I feel like most of the time we could spend weeks, days, months on something without testing. So that was like the key part from Escape the City I loved. A second part was just I think it's more like being in the same room with people who have the same mindset and the same goals, because sometimes like being entrepreneurial can feel a bit like you're weird.
Definitely.
Like, why are you, it's just not a normal path, so it was nice and refreshing to feel like I'm not the only weirdo in the room, and everyone and like I feel like I belong. And that was like great. This is it,
this is where I should be.
How did you find juggling the full-time and the side hustle, I guess, with Leafage? And was it long after you left Escape you kind of jumped all into Leafage then? Or what was it like before juggling both, and then what happened after Escape?
So the first year I was only working on Leafage like just over the weekend, and then we started we did the first team building activity at Facebook. I didn't even know what a team building activity was. So I was like, okay, I'll just come into the office, like host this. Amazing feedback. And then we started getting people being like, oh, do you want to come into the company, like to host a workshop? And I was like, I've got a full-time job, I can't. So I think the second year it was when we started getting more inquiries. So I had to cycle into work with my laptop every day for like 6 months. And then lunchtime I'll go in to a cafe opposite work to just sit and like work replying emails, and then in the evening I'd stay at work from like 5 to 8 doing Leafage until they close the building, so they kick me out. So then I get a lift with a security guy, drop me at the station, and then it just repeats, So I was good friends with all the or like the cleaners, the security guys. Like the last one out, basically.
All the time. I love
But yeah,
Did it feel like work, or
sorry?
Did it feel like work, or was it just?
No, it was so fun, and I think it was so fun to be able to apply what I do during the day, and then apply this to this project back then. And I was like, oh, and it's getting great feedback and making the sales. And you know what it's like when you make the sales and you're like, oh my God, actually, somebody's supporting this.
Yeah, I completely know that feeling. Yeah. And for those who don't know, how would you describe a terrarium?
Okay, a terrarium is a portable miniature garden. So it mimics a real landscape, and you don't need to have, any gardening experience. You don't need to have any, a garden outside. So yeah, like a desk garden, miniature garden.
I really love that. That mimics the landscape. I love that because I can already see how playful you can be. Within a container, how playful and experimental it could be. And what is the weirdest thing people have put in the terrarium, or the craziest thing that you've seen?
Oh my God, okay, weirdest thing, someone bought that ants and put in the terrarium, and I was like, okay,
yeah, can you put animals in
really?
there?
Brought a bug and ants from his place, and I was like, okay. It's not weird, but I was like, wow, okay, that's cool.
That is cool.
That is cool. That's cool. And then apart from that, then some people, brought dinosaur gemstones, but I feel like nothing can beat ants, the insects. I was like, how did you even think that? You brought this from home to put it in your terrarium. I thought that was impressive.
That is impressive.
I love when people come prepared to classes, they've either printed for us, is print out the design or something. You're like, I love it. They're really into it beforehand. And I've thought that was so
What cool. About you guys though? I'm curious. Has what's been the creative thing that?
I would say
there's a few dodgy objects at hen parties with pottery and stuff. I can't mention
on the podcast. I think the weirdest thing somebody has come to make, well, it's not even that weird, it's just very creative of them. Somebody wanted to make a cat scratcher, but from scratch.
How does that work? Yes.
Yeah, so they came with a bit of wood and were like, we want to make a cat scratcher. So we were there glue gunning bits of fabric and sticking a board to it and finding random bits in the studio to add to their cat scratcher.
I'm so cool.
Very random.
Because we used to do just kind of come and use the studio and make whatever you like.
Yeah.
So there used to be a few weird requests.
Yeah. It looked really cool. They made it into a big cactus, but anyway.
You know what? You should run that workshop.
Yeah, that's so true for all the cat lovers.
You should run that workshop. I think it would be a hit.
That's such a good idea.
But back to Leafage. Just for everybody listening, what do you guys do now? What we've kind of talked about the journey early on. You did lots on the weekends, lots of public workshops, and you started doing companies. That sounds like Facebook. What a great client to get.
What a great first client to have. Yeah.
What can people expect today?
Okay, so from the lockdown, we then launched our virtual workshops and the DIY kit, because these DIY kit were not available before the lockdown. Before March of last year, nothing of this was there. Nice. So at the moment, we're just focusing on the virtual workshops, and then we might start running the in real life workshops again. But I think we're trying to find our feet with the virtual workshops, and then trying to build the system so the team can run this and they can kind of step back a little bit more. Trying to get the sales to be consistent, so then we can start outsourcing everything to a fulfillment company, so we can kind of run it digitally, and then doing what we do best, being creative. So that's kind of what you guys can expect from us at the moment, just virtual workshops and DIY.
That sounds really good. I imagine it's quite hard shipping out glass in no matter how big or small it is. And like you guys have quite big terrarium. I don't know what you even call the glass on a terrarium.
Terrarium.
You say terrariums.
Terrarium.
How have you found that? How do you package it up and sell? Like, it must be quite big boxes and lots of stuff inside.
Padding.
Yeah, so we do our best to not use plastic, so everything is recyclable. We use like a lot of like paper, packing paper, and then because we have like bags of soil and pebbles, so that kind of comes as like a cushion and extra protection. And then just lots of paper, but quite like a stiff sort of paper, so they don't just like break. But like just dealing with plants and glass container, I mean, it's not easy, but we've nailed it. We've cracked it. But we've cracked it. And like I had to do a lot of research just to see how other people do it, watch a lot of videos. But at the moment I feel like we managed that. So I feel like we're kind of ready to pass it on to the center when the time is right, you know?
That's really good.
That's amazing. Just going back a little bit to your mission, why nature, and why do you think that plays such a big part in exploring your creative side, and that piece about well-being? You know, why are you improving people's well-being through nature specifically?
I think this comes back again when I was listening to the Buddhist teaching, and we have this word Dhamma, which means like kind of like going back to basic, like the back to nature. So if things are not going well in your life, that's what it is. If things are going well, that's what it is. So it's kind of like going back to like the baseline, you know? And I feel like with nature, whatever generation we're in, we're always going to be around nature, surrounded by nature. And I feel like when you're in nature, you feel like whatever you're facing is so small, and things keep going in nature. And I feel like that's a good realization. So whatever struggle you're facing right now, just know that it will get better. Like the moon and the sun and the trees, all that.
I absolutely love this, and I can just see this actually kind of pattern through some of the experiences that you've described have been pivotal to Leafage. You know, you doing your first graphic design project on a nature theme, you know, trying to solve this problem of buying plants, and you know. And when your dad sadly passed away, going back to nature and then discovering the teachings, and then how you felt, you know, being around nature and being with yourself. And then now all of this feeding into having a little piece of nature to always go back to on your desk or in your home, especially with the lockdown, when I guess all we had was going into nature every so often, and when we weren't, you know, we realized how much we value going outside, and so bringing a bit of the outside in.
Yeah, for sure. And plus, not everyone can keep, you know, things alive. So I mean, I struggled before Leafage, so I feel like a terrarium was like a good starting point for me to keep things alive in this contained environment. So then when you know you can start keeping things alive after 6 months or a year, you start buying plants, and then now we're surrounded by loads of plants at home, which is so nice. And I think that's something I want to share to people, that you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
That's so nice. And just to picture the amount of people, because you've hosted tons of people now, that it's in their home. They see it probably every day when they get up or when they go to bed or whatever the case is. It's really nice. It's like a very long lasting impact for people. So like the workshop you do is great. Feedback's always really good. Then it's like there's this thing that they'll appreciate
that they've
for a long
made.
time.
Yeah,
it's nice.
That is lovely. What is your proudest moment with Leafage?
You can't say it's yet to come.
Proudest moment is when we pivoted the business, because obviously March last year, zero income. And I couldn't get any help from the government because it hasn't been running for long enough.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? And I'm just so proud of, you know, like the team, the business, and like my friends and family around me, all my mentors and advisor, that in the end we kind of like launched this and like are still going. Because I think even though we've been getting, you know, great clients, it doesn't mean that it's like easy, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're so like, I'm so positive. I'm like, yes, let's go. It doesn't mean that we don't struggle sometimes, but it's just like using this tough time to just create something new, and not just me doing it, like, you know, the whole team, everyone involved. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of us. And that's such a good question. That's so nice. That's so nice.
I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And you've done it so, and you've said it so eloquently, just from a bad situation and going from zero to something. And something that's growing, and you know, it's a credit to you to have this wonderful team who's on this journey with you. We've, you know, we definitely find that you can't do everything on your own, and as a founder you're always like carrying all these, not problems but challenges in your head, and you're like, oh, what do I do next? And having a team who's like, okay, cool, yes, we'll do this, and you know, we'll do this together, and then seeing that months later as something that more and you can offer to more and more people is incredible.
Yeah.
How have you found that, I guess, growing a team now versus, because I imagine you're doing all the workshops, you're very much there, you're seeing the impact. But then when it kind of moves on and the team gets bigger and there's other people potentially teaching, you're a bit removed from some of the functions potentially, although obviously keeping an eye on them. How have you found that? Has that been freeing, as in you're like, great, I don't have to do X, Y, and Z? Or is it, some people find it a bit more harder almost because they have to like motivate people and still keep an eye on things and try and do the things that they're supposed to do? How have you found that experience?
I find having a team member really rewarding. I love, you know, like teaching them what I know and then get them to kind of like, it's really rewarding to see their improvement from day one until like today. So I never find that stressful, because I feel like once they get going, then they can do the job even sometimes better than you. And I think as a business owner, you need to learn how to delegate.
Yes.
But to delegate really well, you've got to pay attention on, you know, the system, like all the onboarding information. So I really love that. I enjoy spending my time doing all the handbook, and then seeing them kind of get on with the task, and then like growing as a person, growing as a team is rewarding, I would say.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I guess that can be just for obviously the podcast about creativity. There is a lot of creative solo entrepreneurs that never take that step to kind of delegate and like give them more freedom to do other things. They kind of, because there is that fear that, oh, if I'm not doing it, it's going to go totally wrong and it's going to be a disaster. Whereas, as you say, if you equip people to succeed, it'll allow the business to grow, and it's really great to help other people grow as part of your journey as well. You've mentioned mentoring a couple of times. Kind of, what is there certain aspects of the business that you get mentoring on, and kind of how have you found that, like the whole experience with getting mentors?
Yeah, so I first came across a mentor, or this word mentor, when I was like 27, because I was just Googling all this business event. So then I went to one, and then she was like, oh, really love your energy, like really want to help you. Do you want to be, you know, I'm a mentor and it's free to work with me, because I was in this age range of like, you know, 16 to 20 or 30 when they were supporting young people. And I was like, oh, okay. So I don't think I would launch Leafage without my first mentor.
Wow.
And it's like so nice to kind of, you know, work with a few mentors along the journey, because obviously from back then it was like, okay, the first mentor, and then you kind of grow a bit more, and then you get the second mentor, the third, the fourth. And I feel like now I'm on a NatWest Accelerator program, and I have my business coach, and then we have a connection to all the mentors in different categories. And that's so nice, because I feel like, you know, once you've got all the skills, then it's very, like, I feel like we should give back to someone who's less, maybe have less experience than you. So I love mentoring and being mentoring someone.
Would it be fair to say then on that point, because I know people are often, I want to get a mentor. How do I do it? Because it can be, and lots of the podcasts I'm sure we all listen to are like, just ask the person. Like, if you think someone's good and they might be able to help, and you'd be surprised at the amount of people that will say yes, because they just like being helpful. Have you done that route, or has it largely been through accelerators and programs and workshops you've been on, in terms of like getting that connection and meeting up with people?
That's a good question. I actually used to Google this, like, how do you ask someone to be your mentor? And I had a conversation with my best friend yesterday. And so the way that I would do it, I've got two routes. So I've done it through the NatWest Accelerator program, and then I've done it like on my own, where I've seen a founder and I'm like, oh my God, he's incredible. He's started a few businesses and I really want to learn from him. So my tips would be to kind of, I would say, reach out to them and then say something that they've done, or a project that they've done that you really admire and can relate to, and then link it back to your challenge, and then ask if they would be able to help. But I would just say ask 3 questions max. And keep it really short. And it doesn't have to, it just needs to be something that they can read through and they're like, okay, I can kind of answer this in 5-10 minutes, and not like, they don't need like 5 hours or 2 days, because then they don't even know you. So you want to kind of warm to them first, and maybe before to start reaching out, you could connect with them on LinkedIn, follow them on Instagram, always like, engage with them before, so they kind of know who you are, and then you ask. So it's not like, oh, I like Sam Diner, I'm just gonna ask them now. You've got to kind of let them know who you are first as well.
You can't.
You agree? Do you guys agree?
Little, I guess. No, I totally agree. I think
agree,
especially on LinkedIn and stuff like that, because it's easy to add people. You get that sometimes. You accept an invitation and then it's like, oh, can you do this for me? It's like, I don't know who you are,
guys.
No.
Why are you trying to sell me stuff first? I don't even know you. Why am I inviting you?
I really agree with the strategy about follow them, make it personal to them. People like hearing, oh yeah, I've read this and I really was impressed by what you did here, and kind of, if you happen to have time to help out with this, or if you have any advice. Most people, like Dan and I, do that all the time. We give advice to people. The little bit of advice we can give, we've a hell of a long way to go, but it's kind of, people like doing it. But if it's just straight up, here, give me this thing, it's generally a no-no.
It's also being respectful as well of their experience and their time. As you said, don't ask for this long, complicated thing. It's just a warm intro and I've loved this. What are your thoughts on this, or quick advice on this? And then
like, it's just a starting point, and then you can always follow up after and be like, oh, after you share this with me, I've gone and try it, and I just want to say thanks. Just kind of follow up, so then they feel like, oh yeah, okay, my advice was helpful, so they're more willing to kind of carry on sharing their advice.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's really good advice in general. And you show that you've got followed on feedback or followed on advice. It gives the person more impetus to help you some more.
Yeah, for sure.
The last point I'll say on that is, I think a lot of people underappreciate that mentors learn a lot from the person they're mentoring also, as in, like, if you're just with your business, I'm sure anyone out there would be like, I'd love to learn more about terrariums and nature and well-being. Like, I'm going to get something out of this a bit as well. So like you can, when you're getting in touch with someone, you can pitch it a little bit like that. It's like, cool, I'd love to learn this. I've seen you've done this. I can also share ideas on this, or whatever the case is, because it can be a mutually
should be a
beneficial.
mutual
and it should be
relationship.
like,
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, love that. Yeah.
so kind of moving on to well-being, which I
Yeah.
touched on there a little bit. Like, what's your weekly routine, daily routine? Because I know you're big. I think every day, 3-4 things, going to get this done today. Like, what's your daily and weekly routine look like from a well-being perspective and health and just general getting things done in your business?
Yeah. So in terms of well-being, I make sure that I exercise at least, twice a week. I need to move my body because I'm really like, sometimes it's really hard to move away from your computer. But if you plan like, cycling after work, that's quite fun. So then, at least move my body twice a week. And then I have this thing, it's called a power list, and I do the 5 critical tasks to win the day. Because once you win the day, then you win the month, win the week, month, year. So you're just focusing on today. But obviously that's just kind of like a handwritten things on a notebook. I would plan my week ahead every Sunday just to kind of like, okay, what's everyone doing? Because you've got to be on top form as well if you're like managing a team. So you want to know, kind of let everyone know what's happening. So I do that Sunday evening. And then this the power list thing is just every day. And I've been doing this for since November 2017.
Wow.
I love it. So once you've done 5 tasks, then you kind of write W at the top, you win the day.
And you're like,
if you haven't done 5 tasks, then you write down L, lose, you lose. And it's kind of, this is so good because this really gives me this self-belief, self-confidence that I can count on myself, because it's really hard to try to get the external validation. It's really, I feel like it's key to have it internally, and this is proof, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. So do you look back and go, oh wow, yeah, I've done 5 days in a row, or and you feel like, oh, January's just gone, what's happened? And you look back and you go, no, I absolutely did this and this. Is that how you use it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't kind of look back, but I just know that it's just keep me focused and organized, and it gives me motivation to just be okay, gonna win one more day and then I'll complete this week. I don't know if people would kind of follow this advice, but because sometimes it can be oh, just ticking off the list, but it's a really nice feeling to know that you complete the task that you need to complete in a day.
I think it's that. Really Dan and I have been on a little bit of a journey with daily habits and all that stuff, and just taking each day and just doing your best and being a little bit clear on what you need to do on a daily basis. It's so impactful. If you look at things in weeks or months, if you just don't get as much stuff done, or you lose motivation, or if you do it on a daily basis, it just grounds you at the start of the day and cool, here we go, I'm going to start with the hardest thing and kind of crack on with it. And it just really, it allows you to enjoy things more as well, especially as an entrepreneur, I would think, because there's a million things you can do, but you've committed to the 5, you've got them done, you couldn't do any more.
That's
brilliant.
You could do more, but I feel once you're done the 5, then you're okay, day's complete. And you can also fit in things if you're trying to build a new habit of exercise or reading, put it on there because it's just there, so then you can be oh God, I haven't done this, need to do it. So it doesn't have to be everything heavy and serious. It could just be go to bed at 10 or read 15 pages a day, just to kind of, once you build that new habit after 21 days, then you're kind of okay, I'm good with this new habit now, let's move on to the next one.
Nice.
Oh, I really like
really
that.
good.
I really, really like that. For everyone listening, the power list is by Andy Frisella.
Andy Frisella, you know him?
Andy Frisella, yes. I was listening to some, because he also does that 75 hard. I know you did that as well.
Yeah. I did. I did not exercise twice a day like that. So I can't say I did it, but I was like, oh my God, I love that challenge. I love Andy. I know he swears a lot.
Yeah, yes.
And I'm really surprised that you know him because I haven't met any founders in the UK that know Andy Frisella.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
maybe I just don't know enough people, but I feel like
he's an
I'm
American.
glad you know him.
Yeah.
I think it was through Alex Chisnell.
Yes, it's through
Alex Chisnell hosts the podcast, and we had him on this. And he's a kind of friend of mine, so he was doing the 75 hard, so I could see, and he was doing the exercise twice a day, and he's in his late 40s. I was like, don't know how he could. What was it? Exercise twice a day, drink like 2 or 3 liters of water, meditate, or
read 10 pages. So there's like different timeline. So 75 hard is you exercise twice a day. One's got to be outdoor for 45 minutes on each one. Read 10 pages a day, no cheat meals, and then drink a gallon of water, and then take a photo every day of your progress, and do it for 75 days.
Wow.
And if you fail on one day, then you start again.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say about the meals? No cheap meals.
No cheat meals. So no alcohol, no, I don't know, cupcake.
Yeah, no cupcake.
Yeah.
God. I mean, it's impressive that you even following that framework. I think it's incredible. It's so inspiring. I try and do like a half hard and with the exercising every day and reading and journaling, and even that is hard to do.
Yeah, but you kind of realize, like, when I was doing those programs, it was like, gotta go out and do exercise. So you don't really have time to like procrastinate. And I think that was what Andy was saying. You spend a lot of time like scrolling through social media and all this stuff. So when you've got a list that like are critical to you, then you don't have time to like
procrastinate and debate.
Yeah, you just gotta like get up and do it.
I think that's a really good tip. I'll take it for me personally. I definitely procrastinate and dither and think of, am I really gonna do this? But actually just having that list and saying, I'm gonna give myself this challenge and I'm gonna commit, then takes away that indecision from.
And people saying they don't have time, it's a myth. You have time. It's just
you have time.
Priorities. Like I get when people,
Andy Frisella and Wellbeing, guys.
Love him.
What was the next question? So Wellbeing. You touch on your personal ones. If there's any more to add to that, feel free to jump in. And then the other one was just in terms of, why do you think it's important for people to take care of their own well-being in the first place?
I feel like even just within the last 10 years, a lot of people, like, I've come across this word like depression. In Thailand, we don't have that yet. I mean, it's a new thing. So I feel like, I don't know if that's something to do with technology, social media, where you compare yourself with other people, their successes, their looks, their achievements. And I feel like it's so important to look after your well-being, and you don't have to go and sit and meditate, so I feel like connecting to nature is a good way to start, but and then you start kind of implementing that into your everyday life, like your self-care. I mean, your self-care routine where you're like, you don't take your phone into the bedroom. I haven't taken my phone into the bedroom for over a year now. So it's like things like that, or you reduce your alcohol consumption. Maybe like I've been doing the cutting down alcohol for like 3 months now, and it's like it feels really good to kind of have my head quite clear, So yeah, I feel like things like that, it's really good to look after your body.
Yeah.
So when you're healthy, then you can do whatever you want to do, I guess.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
I
mean, it sounds like you have a big kind of emphasis on being organized and systems and processes. Just hearing your power list, and then you're talking about your processes for your business. like, why is that important for you? And what tips do you have for listeners to get more organized or have a power list and have these processes for whatever aspect of their life?
I was personally like really inspired by my dad's success. So he was like an international kindergarten, the owner of that. And he had like full team running the whole day-to-day thing. So he was more of like a visionary. And I find that really, really cool, you know, I mean, cool, but like it's something that I want to
aspire to
be. So that's why I really value like creating business systems where anyone can come in and learn, because I mean realistically, like there's no secret in the world. You can't just, you know, keep everything to yourself. It's great to share, it's great to train people and then let them grow with you. And then if they're meant to be your people, they're going to stay. If not, you know, they're not your people. And I think it's based on trust. And that's something, the culture that my dad always, you know, created for his employees. You know, when they came to his funeral, everyone was like crying. It was really emotional, but impactful to see how the impact that my dad had on his team and everyone around him. And I just want it to be like that.
Yes.
I want it to, this sounds really weird, but I know that I'm not the only one, because apparently Gary Vee says the same thing. And I was like, what?
What the hell?
But I was like, I really want people to come like to my funeral and just feel like I've impacted their life or touched their life in some way. And that was from seeing like how people react at my dad's funeral, and I was so touched.
I remember, because you said that to me before, when I saw you a few years ago, isn't that mad? But I remember you saying, you know, the question that was left with you after seeing your dad is, who's going to come to my funeral? You know, like who's going to come to your funeral and feel that sense of, oh, this person has really touched my life. And I thought that was an amazing takeaway from, you know, losing your dad, and also just seeing the impact that your dad had. Because I don't know if it's like the same thing, but I feel like, you know, when you're invited to a wedding, everyone wants to go, but sometimes when you hear bad news and you're like, oh, I wasn't that close to this person, don't know if I'm gonna go or not. And I just feel like I don't want people to ever feel like that. I want them to feel like I've contributed or impacted their life in some way. Probably not everyone, but, you know, I feel like the funeral is something that you kind of, I want people to come and like pay respect to you, or like, I don't know. No, I think I really know.
Because it's a different vibe to like weddings, like the funeral weddings, complete opposite.
No, it makes sense. And like a lot of people talk about kind of what would my 80-year-old self do. It's in a similar vein, as in like, because that feeds into so many things. If you're doing a process document, you're really thinking that I want this person to pick it up, feel comfortable doing it, do a nice job. They respect that I spent the time showing them how to do it. My emails to customers, who knows where this is going to go. I'm going to be extra kind because it's a nice thing to do. Like, it's a real nice way to think about things, because it's kind of leading with kindness, I guess, is maybe a way to summarize it, because people like kind people and they respect them, and then you build a nice relationship with them.
Love that.
That was a ramble.
No, I really love that. So I mean, just to summarize so you see your processes and systems as ways of helping you teach and empower other people, but also build something that people can partake in and almost like execute a bigger vision. Definitely.
You sums it up so well.
No, I absolutely love that. I'm inspired by that.
You've probably seen the McDonald's film, have you? The Ray Kroc, the founder.
Oh, I have not seen that.
You should check that out, because that's like McDonald's success. Well, it's two things it's built on, but one is just the processes and like every second and the ingredients, and everybody knows what they're doing. It's really easy to train people up. And then there's like the real estate. They bought lots of real estate where the McDonald's are. That's a slightly different point. But you'd probably enjoy a lot from that story about how they kind of got that up and running. It's a really good film as well. The Founder, I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out.
What have you how have you found running your own business and also managing your mental well-being? Because I think that's something all founders, it's a continuous challenge, running a business and trying to keep sane. How have you found that aspect of it?
At first I felt like I needed to know everything and then like have everything figured out before I have a meeting with the team. But then my mentor was like, why don't you ask the team? If you don't know, just bring it up. You don't have to know everything. And that's why they're there for you, right? They're there as a team. And I was like, wow, okay, so that's a big realization that I don't need to know everything. I can share my struggle, obviously within reason. You're not going to be like, oh my God, I don't know. Like, you still need to be in control and calm. Yes. Because really, if something's not working out, it's not the end of it, right? There's always option B, C, D. So I would say stay calm, get your team involved, and then you might come up with something so much better than what you'd come up by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Really lovely.
And kind of, we're sadly coming towards the end.
Yes.
This is flown by. I don't know how. I think you're probably, out of all the guests we've had this series so far, I think the next question you're going to answer the best. So no pressure.
Yes.
Okay, no pressure.
It's around recommendations, and it could be to do with anything, whether it's well-being or startups, like any podcast or book recommendations, or even groups that you know, like 3 or 4 of those would be really good. And then it'd be just really nice to hear again. We touched on it at the start, but where can people find out more about what you're doing, and if there's anything coming up? So it's recommendations, where to find out more, and if there's anything coming up that you'd like to mention.
Okay, so recommendations, I would say books, Atomic Habits, Do Purpose, and I would say a video, watch the Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I know everyone raves about this, but I think that's so cool. That I came across Simon Sinek through Escape the City. And I was like, wow, this guy's great. And
nice.
And in terms of podcasts, I've really been enjoying listening to young people doing things, secret leaders, and then How I Built This. I really enjoy that. Yeah, so, and then of course Andy Frisella's podcast. A lot of swearing, so might not be a cup of tea. But yeah, that's podcast. In terms of the community, I would recommend joining, the Rubber Book Club, because they got me into finishing my book. I struggle finishing a book, and then I joined the Rubber Book Club, and I finished a book, my first book, and then I'm now, I'd read a book in a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I would say join the Rubber Book Club, because I know you guys are a member as well, right?
Yeah, Sam is, and I by association.
And is there anything else that you wanted me to share?
I'm going to ask, out of all of these ones that you've recommended, which one has really given you the biggest impact in life?
Do Purpose.
Do Purpose.
Yeah, nice.
I cried when I read that.
Really? Why?
Because he talked about, small businesses have small budget. A big company might do one campaign, and that's like your whole yearly income or something like that. And I was like, I think that was the beginning of the lockdown, and I really I did struggle, just kind of think, oh my God, how am I gonna carry on? And I read this book and I just cried so hard. I finished the book within 24 hours. I loved it that much, and I would always recommend Do books, because they have lots of different categories, but I feel like the Do Purpose is so well written. David, the founder of Do Lectures, it's like such an incredible author. It's so moving the way he writes. It's like, I could cry.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, I'm gonna read that now.
I think they do an annual event. They obviously haven't
Mm.
had it recently, but I really want to go. It sounds like the most fun and get
Where
lots.
they do lecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if you go, tell me. I'd go.
Yeah, we'll all go.
Like
Yes.
Glastonbury, but for I don't know.
But
What's the I was gonna
It's
say
not
for
even
smart
for-
people, but that's very rude. It's like Glastonbury for just people that like being productive and healthy
inspired,
and inspiring
yeah.
people.
Yeah, who loves like a growth, you have growth mindset and love learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, on that note, everybody, that brings us to the end of this wonderful podcast. I mean, what does long-term success and happiness look like for you, Kay?
I thought that was the end.
No.
Okay, big question.
The final and
Wow.
and where can listeners find out more about what's coming up?
Okay, long-term success and happiness is when, when I become the visionary of the business, and I can watch, my team or the people grow from stage 1 to 5, and the whole business can run without me. I feel like that would be like something I'd want to leave, like a kind of a legacy. I know it sounds really like big when we're still a small business, but I really believe in, the legacy, dream big. Where can people find us? They can find us on, the usual, our website, we're a Leafage, our Instagram and LinkedIn. We are not yet on TikTok, but we might be.
Coming soon. Exciting. That would be so fun. Oh, all the terrarium videos. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kay, for joining us and being open and sharing some wonderful stories and an amazing recommendation list that I can't wait to work through. Yeah. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
So that's the end of that episode. We really hope you enjoyed it and would love to hear what you learned. If you haven't yet, be sure to click that subscribe button and get first dibs on all future episodes.
Also, be sure to check out the previous ones because there's some fantastic nuggets and amazing guests there too. We do this podcast for free in the hope that you can benefit from it. So any support you can give us would be incredible. Please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, your parents, your cats and dogs about it. We would love to really grow this podcast even better. Please leave us a review. We love reading them.
And if you'd like to explore that creative side of yours, be sure to check out at MYO London or at Creative Jungle Co. on Instagram and get in touch.
Here's to a much more creative and happier life.
You got this, you creative legend.